You can all join palms. And repeat after me. I take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
Keeping the palms joined. Palms down. All right, good evening, everybody. Nice to see you all here. Thank you for showing up. Anyone here for the first time joining us? Those here for the first time, what brings you here? What it was about? What all these crazy people are doing here? Nice. Well, glad you're here. Yeah. Same. Yeah, you two can run out together. Usually they sit in the back by the door, that way you just kind of sneak out midway through and nobody even knows. Yeah. What else? First time, who's here? There's a hand somewhere else. Yeah.
My girlfriend comes here.
Your girlfriend comes here. Nice. And how long did it take you to finally show up?
A little over a month.
Oh, that's not bad. Yeah. That's good. It wasn't like 2 years or anything like that, Sometimes it's easier just to give in and go, Nice. Well, thanks for right. How long did it take you, Henry? And look, now he's in the front row. See how that worked out? How long did it take you?
I think a year and a half.
Until you finally came, huh?
Yeah.
That's wild.
It took me a year and a half to invite him.
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah. It's interesting. This space, and I think any sort of spiritual practice, meditation practice, and obviously, everything's just my opinion, but especially something like this is something that I've seen over the years, that it is not usually something that for those who are in relationships that couples come together. It's not common. It's actually pretty rare. Again, this is my experience over the last 25 years of looking at Buddhist communities. It's usually kind of one or the other. And it is kind of like you said, it's like it's their little private, sacred, space. And that I've found to be more common than anything. There are those rare occasions where, couples do show up together, but it is kind of that thing where more often than not, it's the one trying to find their own, peace and quiet, because relationships are, they're challenging, they're difficult. And we always face chaos with everything. And so it's nice to have, opportunities to practice and learn together. And, for those who are like, no, you just stay home, I'm going on my own, that's nice as well. So anyone in here that is not invited a significant other and just stay away, that's my thing. Anyone want to admit to that? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I did, it's a little bit different. I did try early on to get my boyfriend to come, but he is now officially just said, no, it's your thing, you do it. He pushed it off on me. He's like, stop asking me, it's your thing. I want you to have it. I don't need to be involved.
So great. This stuff cracks me up. The psychology behind how people show up or don't show up here is hysterical.
And he's the reason why I started
Right. Well, see, and that is often the case as well, you know. As I always say, right, all of you are here today. There is probably someone in your life that is at some meditation, yoga, therapy, spiritual something because of you. Right? So they've run to something else because of you. But I know you're all here, you know, because you're all calm and quiet and peaceful and happy. So anyone else that's like kind of avoided it and kept it as their own thing? You know, since we're on the subject. Anyone else want to own that one? No? All right. Cool. I think I've done enough with that for the evening. So we're going to get started for whoever is here and why ever you're here, which is completely up to you as long as you know why you're here. To those virtual, glad you have shown up. Thank you for being here. Feel free to say hello. There's a chat box on your screen somewhere. A couple things I'll tell you before we begin. Nothing's going to happen to you. You're not going to float away. You're not going to have any mystical, magical experiences. The mind that races all day long is not going to shut off. Don't judge your practice, meaning don't ask yourself, is this working or not working? Are you doing it right or wrong? We're just going to sit. We're going to breathe. You'll hear sounds inside the room, sounds outside. This is life. Life is filled with chaos. And this practice is learning to get quiet and still within all of the chaos. Posture, you just want to be comfortable. If you are on a cushion, often it helps sliding to the front third, pushing the stomach forward, allows the back to straighten. If you're on a bench or chair, however you're seated, same thing, just trying to sit up straight, relaxing the shoulders. Hands can be on the knees or in the lap, whatever's comfortable. If you need to move, simply move. Movement doesn't make you a bad meditator. And especially for those who are new, you're not going to think nothing. You're not going to shut your mind off. You're not trying to go blank. Your mind will wander and race as much as it always does. I'll say things periodically to remind you that you're lost in thought and bring you back to the present moment, or simply to wake you up because you've fallen asleep. I'll guide us as we begin, and we'll settle into some silence. And starting with the eyes closed, if comfortable, or slightly open. Mouth is open or closed. We'll start with taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. And eventually, we'll settle into a natural rhythm of the breath. Noticing the mind as it wanders, jumping from thought to thought. We'll start with gently guiding the attention, focus to the stomach or chest. Breathing in, feel them rise. Breathing out, feel them fall. Simply continue this practice, observing sensation of breath, expecting nothing but to sit and breathe. As the mind wanders, lost in thought, recognize it. Release that thought. Return attention, focus to the breath. Breathing in, follow breath in. Breathing out, follow breath out. Letting go of expectations. Letting go of judgments from your practice. just sitting, breathing. Learning to be comfortable in stillness, in quiet, wanting nothing but to sit and breathe. And with the body still, rested, and the speech quiet, aware of all sounds, and the mind learning to settle, know what it's like to just sit and breathe. Knowing with each breath, there's nothing else to do, nowhere else to go. And no one else to be. Everything beautiful, exactly as it is. Sitting, breathing. And once again, taking 3 deep breaths slowly. And as you slowly open the eyes, slowly beginning to move. And most important, with the practice of meditation, is to recognize how you feel now, immediately after. Compare this to how you typically feel throughout your day. Recognize the difference, if there is one. Ask yourselves how you'd prefer to feel every day for the rest of your life. Realize however you feel now, if it's quiet, calm, and still, or a busy mind, racing mind, whatever you're sitting with at this moment, it's not from anything I said. It's not from how we sit and hold the hands or cross the legs. It's not from the sounds around us or anything else for that matter. It has everything to do with your own mind and your own mind's reaction to an external condition. This is what the Buddha called pratitya samuppada, means dependent origination. This is the basis of the Buddha's awakening. The word Buddha simply means awakened. He was a human being, no different than any one of us, who began to understand why he suffered, why he got angry, sad, depressed, stressed, anxious. He began to understand the causal relationship of all phenomena. And what that means very simply for all of us, regardless where you come from or what you believe in and where you think you're going, your whole life is filled with things that happen. You react. More stuff happens, more reactions. That's it. That's what we get. This practice is simply learning what it's like to respond to something quietly, peacefully, still. Because for most of us, the way you responded to the last 20 minutes is quite different from how you respond every other 20-minute period of your day. And so all we're working on is closing the gap to where the way you feel now is closer to how you feel always. Just as driven, motivated, productive, successful, whatever that means to you in your respective lives. But with a mind that's steady, clear, focused, distracted by nothing, disturbed by no one. It's not an easy practice. It's not necessarily fun. It's not an escape, as often people think it is. It is direct perception into the present moment. And present moment is filled with conflict, chaos, difficulties, challenges. This is life. Too many people come to this practice thinking it's an escape. Too many people have been running from too many things most of their lives. Running gets you tired. This practice is learning to sit with life and watch it and observe it and understand your thoughts and your words and your actions in each moment. This is what the Buddha called karma. Karma is not what goes around, comes around. It's not getting what you deserve or they're going to get what's coming to them. That's not what karma is at all. Karma is what we bring into the world, not what happens to us. We generate karma three ways: what we think, what we say, and what we do. So this practice, very simply, over and over and over again, every day in and day out, moment after moment after moment, is awareness of your thoughts, your words, and your actions. We spend so much time focused on the thoughts and words and actions of others. Wishing they would do this, wishing they would do that, wondering why they would do this, wondering why they would do that. So much time focused on what everybody else is doing or not doing. That's not this practice. It doesn't mean you ignore what's happening around us. One must be aware of every level of privilege they may have and how other people's actions are impacting the world, because the world's a mess, but it always has been and it always will be. And this is learning to engage in the world to create change, but from a place of loving kindness and compassion, not from hatred and anger, not from judgment and critique, thinking you're better than everybody else. Meditation is free. Buddhist practice is free. It's just sitting, breathing, and again, becoming aware of what you think, say, and do. And ultimately learning to be kind to yourself and every single person you encounter every moment of your day. That's it. And that just repeats over and over and over again. That's why it's so much fun. It's not a 6-week course. It's not, 3 months and all of a sudden I got it. It's just day in and day out. You will be challenged. You will be bothered. You will be triggered by everything around you. And whatever's bothering you now at some point in time will go away, and there'll be someone else, somewhere else, someplace else that'll bother you. It just moves from person to place to thing. So instead of trying to control and manipulate all of those people and places and things, this practice is holding up a mirror and looking back at yourself. Because the one thing that's constant in all of the madness in your own head is what? Your own head. So good luck with that. I'm going to pause there. For me, really prefer to respond to questions, meditation, Buddhist practice, anything you're sitting with. And again, to those who are joining virtually, glad you're here. Thank you for showing up. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat box. I'll do my best to respond. It's kind of cool to see Tom's in Denver, Napa, El Centro. It's kind of fun. Anyways, thoughts, questions? Just highlighting the millions of followers on YouTube here. So thoughts, questions, meditation, Buddhist practice, anything you're sitting with? Yeah.
So, thought.
Yeah.
So after we finish the meditation, we always talk about
think about how you thought that it'll respond now in that 20-minute period versus the rest of the day. And how it makes a difference in now and hopefully we carry it for this week.
Yeah.
So last week, some friends and I spent a week camping and hiking in Mammoth.
Okay.
Drove up on Monday, we drive back on Friday. And I was in the carpool lane just south of RV, somewhere in there. And this car comes by and it's got 6 or 7 police cars behind it. And I remember thinking, if I could just teleport into that car, into that driver's seat and say, let's just breathe. Let's just breathe. Let's step back and just breathe. And of course, you can't teleport. And I got the heck out of the carpool lane because, on the 15, you're stuck between 2 concrete barriers. And you know if something's going to happen, you're going to be really stuck. And sure enough, something happens. She was shot and killed. It was a woman. Don't know why, don't know how. I just know she was shot and killed. And all I can think of is that at any point during that day, if she could have just sat down and breathed, she'd probably be alive today. So I know the difference it makes for me, and it's certainly nowhere near as dramatic as that. But it certainly reinforces my need for the practice.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's important to, and I appreciate you sharing that, to reflect on a couple things, how slowing down, to your point early on where you talked about how I always say that, pay attention to how you feel now and compare that to how you typically feel. Because what happens is, especially for those who might be new, is that after meditation, even if often, I'll just say this to kind of ramble a little bit, meditation might make you feel worse. If you're sad and depressed and you sit quietly for 20 minutes, you're going to feel worse. Quite possibly. That's why we have things we turn to escape addictions, cravings, desires. So just because we sit quietly and breathe for 5, 10, 20 minutes doesn't mean we're going to feel better. Now, in a space like this, in a practice like this, sitting quietly for, 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, what did you all do during those 20 minutes physically? Nothing. You just sat still. So even if you were sad or depressed or angry or miserable or whatever emotions you were feeling, what you actually practiced was not getting away from those feelings. You practiced being with them. And what this shows us is that we can feel depression, sadness, anger, all these emotions that we feel, and just sit with them. But I just want to remind people that just because you sit quietly and breathe for 20 minutes doesn't mean you're going to feel better. We also have emotions of happiness and joy and excitement. But as I always say, most of you don't show up at a place like this because all you focus on is happiness and joy and excitement, right? If that's all we focused on, none of us would probably be sitting here right now. So, but yes, it is very important to recognize, Starla, as you're saying, how we feel after those 20 minutes or whatever, 5 minutes or whatever it is, and recognize what it's like to slow down and just breathe. Because, I started doing prison work 22 years ago, and I'll never forget a guy said, if he just thought, if he'd just taken one more breath before he did what he did, he wouldn't be spending the rest of his life in jail. And, we all have moments throughout our day that might not put us to that extreme of a situation, or it might, we don't know. But most of us probably have situations where we could look back and reflect and say, if I just thought for one more breath before I did whatever I did, I wouldn't have caused so much pain or suffering or heartache or whatever it might have been. So the opportunity to slow down and breathe and reflect on gratitude, appreciation, find something positive in your life. Because I don't care how miserable anyone's life is, just about everybody has something positive going on in their life. But for some reason, we don't focus on those things. So thanks, Darla. What else? Questions? Yeah.
You also brought up about just action, reaction, and I was thinking about this. My wife and I we went away for the weekend, and I got up the first morning to make us coffee. We had a little espresso machine. I got up to go make the coffee, and it was a crisis because there were no cups in the room. And I just did what I always do when things don't go Greg's way. I started, and not terribly, but a little bit of, let's just say a little bit of cussing was going on. And, and I'm putting my pants on over, just to go out and go find a cup. And I go get it. It takes maybe 5 minutes, and I come back and make coffee. But to your point about thinking about things and about its rights, thoughts, speech, and action. I said all those things. I didn't direct them at my wife. I didn't throw things. And I was just like, what the hell, But that's how I started her morning.
Yeah.
And it just, really occurred to me. It's just these little seemingly innocuous things that I discount. But if I'm paying attention, that I have no idea how it impacts your day, but it can't be good.
Yeah, no, sure.
And it's just something that it got me thinking about. And that's just something that things like this practice make me more aware of my behavior.
Yeah, this, and for me, waking up to an incredible life of, white male, heterosexual privilege, is it can be pretty scary when you wake up to that, and you're like, wow, I really do have every privilege in the book. And how dare my whatever place I'm staying in on whatever weekend I'm at, and my Labor Day, blah blah blah, and my blah blah blah, how dare this place not have cups for me? I mean, waking up to privilege is rough, man, but it's good to wake up to it and see it, and to be able to reflect on that on a Tuesday night, just 2 days after you blew up because you couldn't have your perfect little travel Nespresso, and to be able to be okay with another white asshole giving you shit for it, that's what Sangha is for. Sangha, for those who don't know, is community in Buddhism, right? And it's a place where you come together to meditate and practice and challenge each other and hold each other accountable, and really be honest with looking at where our craving, the root cause of Buddhist suffering, right? It says we all suffer. First noble truth, life is filled with suffering. Doesn't mean all of life sucks. It just means you're going to suffer a lot. And some of it is extreme, death, loss, trauma, things like that. And some of it is like literally meaningless because you don't got your travel Nespresso, other than the headache that would ensue from the caffeine withdrawals, which I would know as well, right? And then the second noble truth is the cause. What causes our suffering? And this is our greed, our anger, and our ignorance, our craving, our desire. And we have this all day long. And whether it's extreme cravings and desires or just simple little things, not being able to have our coffee when and how we want it. These are little things that happen throughout our day. And I found that in most cases, again, this isn't to take away, there is serious, horrific things going on in the world and tremendous trauma amongst all of us or many of us in this room. But I find that in my experience working with people, most of the things that we struggle with, or that the people I see struggle with on a day-to-day basis, are not just the big, heavy, traumatic things in life. It's the little things that, not going to kill you. And so if you can begin to see that, how the small things are really playing out in your life that just irritate you and annoy you, and then you just build on all of those. And yeah, Greg, to your point at the end, and then everybody else has to deal with that. They have to deal with our madness, and nobody should have to deal with our madness. So the practice is waking up to our own madness, so we don't make others suffer from it. So thank you for outing yourself, Greg. I appreciate the bravery on calling yourself out. What else? Yeah.
I feel like I keep learning these lessons through experiences that life gives me, and I love it. Whatever the lesson is, gratefulness, awareness, everything else like that. And then I practice it and I put it into my life, and I feel like 5 months later, it's not that I wake up, but I realize whatever I learned, I feel like it's fading into the wind. I don't know, it's like the lesson that I finally really understood, not just like grasped as an idea, but really understood within me. I no longer really understand it, and I'm living by it. And I don't know how to make it more permanent.
Just to clarify something, I want to make sure I understand what you're saying. Are you saying that you learned something from the experience of it, and then 5 months later, it's almost like you forgot the lesson, or it just doesn't play out in your life anymore, and you're good with it?
No, it's almost like I forgot the lesson.
So, in other words, you're repeating the same, I won't call it stupid thing over and over again, but you're repeating the same action that you feel like you learned 6 months ago, you forgot it, and now you're just doing the same thing again. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that sucks. But that's, again, part of this practice is the fact that, first and foremost, I think, one, beautiful that you learned whatever it is you learned at all, right? And then 6 months later, you're like, I completely forgot that lesson. And now, usually when we do things that we needed to learn a lesson from, suffering is involved with ourselves and or others. So we harmed somebody, we got harmed. We learned a lesson. We said, I'm never doing that again. Never putting myself in that situation again, whatever it might be. 6 months later, same thing happens. But each time you're learning again. You're being reminded again. So yes, I understand on one side you could say, well, why couldn't I just have learned it the first time? But you're still learning it. And you're still here, again, to kind of same thing I said to Greg. And here you are on a Tuesday night at 7 o'clock asking about that, which means you are diligently dedicated and committed to figuring out why you keep doing things that are harming yourself and or others. And so part of this is being a little bit gentler on yourself and saying, okay, I'm a work in progress. As Suzuki Roshi, who built San Francisco Zen Center, he always said to his students, he said, you're all perfect exactly how you are, and you all could use a little improvement, right? So that's your little improvement. Scary would be you never learning it at all, or having it learned, do it again, and then just saying, well, forget it. I'm just going to keep living this way. No, you're watching and seeing the things that you want to change about your life. And that's wonderful. To the ultimate question, which is why does that keep happening? In brief, the Buddha taught a lot about these conditioned patterns and behaviors that we have in our head. And, anytime, which not a lot here in San Diego, but it would rain and you look out the car windshield and you'd see like raindrops on the windshield. And once it would hit a groove, it would like fly down that groove, right? So this is kind of the way our brain just, creates these neural pathways and gets in these grooves. And I would always watch raindrops and think of that. And very often these lessons that we're learning, we've created very strong habitual patterns that are unhealthy. And very often when we or others suffer, that's the moment we say, I need to learn a lesson. But you ever done anything that was really harmful to self or other and gotten away with it and not got caught and not harmed anybody? and then wondered if you should have learned a lesson or not, right? It's very often when people get harmed that we say, I need to learn from this. But when we don't get harmed, we're just cruising. So, yeah, congratulations for continuously observing your actions that are maybe not so healthy. Anyone else in here have unhealthy actions? So, yeah. What else?
I feel like you said before that like meditation in Buddhism is not really like therapy, like it's just very different.
Yeah.
But I mean like for example, like in therapy they have like cognitive therapy workbooks where like you ask yourself a bunch of questions and you respond.
Sure.
Is there something similar in Buddhism, like a series of questions that you can, like, ask
Yeah.
yourself?
So the question for those who didn't hear it was how I say all the time that Buddhism is not therapy. Buddhism meditation is not therapy. And then your example was in therapy, they have, cognitive behavioral therapy and workbooks and questions you ask yourself. So your question is there something in Buddhism where there's questions that you ask yourself? So to touch on it briefly, as I always say, for those who haven't heard me say it, yes, Buddhism and therapy are two different things. Both very important. For all of you who are in therapy, which is probably half of you, stay there. And figure out how Buddhist practice can also become a part of your life, right? But they are very different things. Both can be very beneficial and very healthy, but they're not the same, right? I mean, as I've talked about a few times recently over the last month or two, next time you go to your therapist, show up and just sit down for your 55 minutes and tell them every wonderful thing that's happening in your life. And no, why would you do that? That would be seemingly a waste of money. You're supposed to go there to talk about all the problems in your life and everything that's wrong with you and give your therapist something to do and then feel better because you got it all out there. Well, how good do you think you'd feel if you just sat down for 55 minutes and told somebody how wonderful you are? Like, wouldn't that be kind of nice? Wouldn't that feel good? Try that one time. Buddhist practice is learning to be with life as it is. Therapy is processing every single thing that's ever happened to you and working through your trauma and digging up childhood and blah, blah, blah. And that's wonderful and beneficial and healthy for you if it works for you, and stay there. Buddhist practice to me is, here I am. I've gone through hell. I've created hell. And I'm grateful to be alive. Done. End of story. And I'm going to keep working. Now, your question, which is, are there questions? Not necessarily in the way that you're asking it, but I view Buddhist teachings as endless questions, right? So even looking at the root cause of our suffering, greed, anger, ignorance, right? As you've heard me say many times, for me, the practice is to ask myself, am I being greedy or am I being generous? Am I being angry or am I practicing compassion? Am I being ignorant or am I practicing wisdom? So it's a constant recognition of what are my thoughts, what are my words, what are my actions, and what's my intention behind all of them. So in essence, you're taking very fundamental Buddhist teachings. I mean, you could look at, you've heard me talk about the 6 Paramitas, these 6 Bodhisattva practices of generosity, the tusks, right? You pay attention. The generosity, morality, patience, diligence, concentration, and wisdom. So the question you could ask yourself every single day is, how's my morality today? How's my patience level today? How's my effort today? So you don't really need a book for that. You just got to hold yourself accountable, or show up and let other people hold you accountable for it, Yeah. What else? Yeah.
On the note that we kind of just went over of like the therapy thing and stuff, for like being like in the Buddhism practice and stuff and trying to not think about the past as much and trying to be present, do you have any recommendations for when thoughts do come up of like something that happens in the past that you're like, oh, why did that happen, or why did I do it like that? And it just kind of plagued your mind.
Yeah. So the question around when for those maybe didn't hear it virtually, when the thoughts come up about the past, what do you do with them? I want to point out, just to be clear for anybody, or for everybody really, that I am not that I'm suggesting you're saying this, but I just want to point this out. I'm definitely not suggesting that you don't take time to explore past actions, because it can sound very dismissive to say, well, like, yeah, I treated people like crap, but that was done, right? I mean, I spent a majority of my life treating people like hell. So I have to own that, and I have to look at that, and I have to explore that, and I have to make sure I don't do that. I don't want to pretend it didn't happen, right? But can I look at it and be kind and gentle towards self? Kind of similar question, while I'm exploring what happened in the past. So I definitely don't want to make it sound like we should just ignore thoughts as they arise. We can learn, to your question, when thoughts do arise and you're like, you're kind of wrestling with it, or it's bringing up a painful memory from the past. If you feel that you're mentally, emotionally stable enough to explore it by yourself or with somebody, friend or professional, whatever it might be, then explore those thoughts. I found it incredibly beneficial to look back through my life and say, why did I do that? But be honest about why I did it. Like, oh, I did it because I was selfish. Oh, I did it because I thought I was more important than every other single person in the world. I did it because I thought I was the most important one in the room. Like, be honest with why you're asking, if you're looking at the past, why you did things. But I think it's important to do that, again, without beating yourself up for it. Because, I mean, if I said to you, how many regrets do you have in your life? How long would that list be? And we only got like 5 minutes left, right? So it'd probably take longer than 5 minutes, right? So you got a whole list of stuff to look at. And it's wonderful to look at it in small doses when you want, or like you said, if it arises. And as we train the mind to do meditation practice, which is breath in, breath out, thought arises, release, breath in, breath out, thought arises, release. When thoughts arise and you say, you know what, I'm going to look at this right now, then look at it. And if you're just feeling like in a not great mood and you're like, I really don't want to explore this right now, then come back to the breath. But I do think it's helpful to look at thoughts. And it's also helpful to let them pass. But you can make that decision based on how you're feeling at that moment. Because if you start to ponder something really painful from your past, what's that going to do for you for the next 5 hours of your day? How are you going to feel? Not great. Thank you very much, Theo. Right? So, and if you want to feel not great for the next 5 hours, you're like, all right, I'm going to feel not great for these next 5 hours, and I'm going to dig into this. Then do it. If you're like, nah, I got stuff to do, I'm going to enjoy my day, then come back to it. So again, training the mind with meditation to be present gives you that ability to pick and choose what you want to look at, but definitely not ignoring. Yeah. What else? Yeah.
So, yeah, because this is the thing. We're lay people, what we're doing here is we're lay people. This guy, the Buddha, he saw things in the world he didn't like, and so he really ventured into that, really to sit with it, not eating for so many days. And I think many of us, if we didn't eat for 40 days, we would probably never complain again about a grain of rice.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be like, I know what hunger is, I'm not gonna, whatever I get is good.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the same thing with thoughts and feelings and emotions. He saw such greed that he sat with not being greedy, giving it all away. He walked without anything.
Yeah.
I think just with minor things, what, a cup and a back, a little thing to sleep on.
Yep.
And we learn from that. And so, but we as lay people aren't as committed. We want to do the study, we want to do the work, but it's like, you're talking about deep stuff.
Yeah, not really.
Okay.
I'm really not. I mean, what you said is beautiful, and I agree with everything you just said. That to sum up virtually, you in a way you were trying to kind of compare, hey, well, the Buddha, he went all in. He was a prince, and he left it all, and he lived with, he had a robe and a bowl and a razor to shave his head. He had 7 items, And so what to me sounded like you're trying to compare, well, what he did to what we're doing as lay people meaning non-monks, non-nuns, non-monastic path. And so, yes, I agree that we live different lives than he did. But to me, this practice, and as you know, I mean, I've been leading lay people in this community for 18 years, and one person in the last 18 years became a monk, and he lives up at Meadow Forest with Ajahn Jeff, and he's been there like 10 years now, right? 99.9% of the thousands of people we've seen through these doors are not Buddhist, do not call themselves Buddhist, have no interest in being Buddhist. They're just stressed out, miserable, and trying to get through their day. And so your question is, how do we take, like the depth of your question, how do we take these teachings and apply them to our lives without having to become a nun, right? Yeah? What'd you do for lunch today?
What did I do for lunch today?
A very simple question. You want to play?
I think it's jelly beans.
Okay. All right. What'd you do for breakfast?
Coffee.
So you had nothing but jelly beans to eat all day. I mean, I can do this with you if you answer honestly.
I think I had some chips.
Okay, well, I'm no dietitian, but you should probably like work on that. So let me shift to a different non-food related thing, and I'm gonna close with this thought, because this it's a beautiful question and really important. It really addresses the heart of what Buddhism is in the Western culture. How many shirts do you have?
Too many.
Okay, thank you. Should have started with the shirt, not the foods, right? You got too many shirts. So let's just call it 50 shirts. You probably have more than that if you said too many, right? So and you're nodding. So let's call it 100 shirts. Do you need 100 shirts? No. Could you live with just 50?
Yes.
Yes. So you now have the absolute opportunity to take 50 shirts that you don't need and give them to people who don't have 50 shirts. There's Rachel's Center, Rachel's house downtown for abused women. They take clothes. So your question is, how do I practice as a lay person? Well, the root cause of our suffering is because of craving and desire. And the Buddha said, practice dana, which is generosity. Give time, attention, a smile, 50 shirts. How do you think you'll feel tomorrow driving 50 shirts down to Rachel's house, knowing that 50 abused women will get 50 shirts? How do you think you'll feel? Better. So you're going to do that tomorrow? See? So here's your point. And you've been around here long enough that I can push you a little bit, right? You're still probably going to show up next week.
I do. I keep showing
I know.
up.
So my point is, you asked a beautiful question. And then I say, okay, so can you do this tomorrow then? But you have a hesitation. So the problem is not, how do we practice as lay people? The problem is, are you ready to practice as a lay person? You just told me you have way too many shirts. You could give away 50 that mean nothing to you. Now, and I'm not even adding the level of, okay, so usually when I give this challenge, people, yeah, you know where I'm going with this. People will go to the 50 shirts that they don't like the color, they don't like the style, they bought it 5 years ago, or they'll give away 50 shirts and then go buy 50 more to replace those. But I'm saying just take any 50 shirts. In fact, take some of the ones you love. You can practice as a lay person. Do you want to? Do you want to suffer less? The Buddha taught a very simple path of how to suffer less. The problem is not that we're not monks or nuns. I've heard that. I don't want to call it an excuse, but I've heard that logic forever. Oh, the Buddha was this. Oh, it was India. Oh, it was 2,500 years ago. The dude had everything. You don't have to leave everything. You can do this with clothes. You can do it with the amount of, that's where I was going with the food, right? Anyone else spend $50 at lunch today? Who spent $50 at lunch today? Did you need to spend $50 at lunch today? Definitely didn't need it. You could have spent $25 and had enough to eat. And for $25 more, you could have bought people living on the streets a sandwich and some drinks. There are so many opportunities as lay people to practice. There are 10,000 people sleeping on the streets downtown right now that need help. You all have family members, friends, colleagues. They all need help right now. Is there anyone in this room right now that doesn't know someone who needs help? You all know somebody who needs help. Are you going to help them? That is what the Buddha was teaching. You have plenty of opportunities as a lay person. I think actually more opportunities. In fact, I don't want to make this about me, but that was what my teacher in Taiwan said. I wanted to become a monk. She asked me 9 months into monastery life, how are you doing? I said, great. I don't ever want to leave. I'm going to become a monk and spend the rest of my life here. And she said, that's wonderful. It's time for you to go. You need to go and figure out how to bring this into a lay practice. The renunciate path for most people in this room would be an escape. That would be easy. Get rid of all your stuff and just put on a robe and have, somebody else feed you all day long and meditate and sweep. They even have coffee, Greg. And it's good coffee too. They have this thing called 3-in-1. I mean, it's good stuff. So for most Western people, monastery life truly would be like an escape. The challenge is, can you do it in your life right now? And every single one of you can. We just choose what? Not to, because we think we're more important. And I'm not attacking you all, nor am I saying I have figured out how to do this either. As I've been saying a lot recently, trying to remind people, if I can do 30% of the stuff that I talk about, I'm a happy camper. This stuff is hard. But are you honestly working at it? Are you being diligent? Or are we just coming up with excuses as to why we can't? And that's part of that honesty of asking ourselves, why can't we? We can't. We just don't. Because we think we're more important. So I'm going to close on that. Good question, though, seriously. We should explore this more. We'll join palms. May the benefit of this practice be shared with all beings in all directions. May all beings be at peace. May all be free from suffering. May any merit gained from this practice be transferred to those who need it most. All right, a few quick announcements from Dharma Bum host Hazel before you all head out.
Hello. Hi. We opened the Dharma Bum Temple 18 years ago to introduce Buddhist practice to those who show up. Those who lead are not nuns, monks, gurus, masters, or teachers, and are not looking for students. They're simply practitioners sharing their interpretation of the practice. Every night, we have different classes led by different people from various Buddhist traditions. We have a recovery sauna that meets several times a week for anyone with addiction, and our food redistribution is every Thursday at 4:30 p.m. We have classes and programs every day, and everything we offer here is always free. The full schedule is on our website and also posted in the entryway above the shoe rack. We have a lending library that's closed right now. Once it's back open, if you see a book you like, feel free to borrow it, then bring it back whenever you're done with it. Please straighten your seat or cushion before you head out. If a few people could stay and close and latch the windows, that would be helpful. Thank you for being here. We wish you well. See you all again.
Thanks, Hazel.